Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about the Ork Titans known as Gargants, Stompas, and Mega Gargants. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions for topics that you guys would like us to cover, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Gargants. The Ork equivalent of an Imperial Titan is known as a Gargant. These Ork Gargants are an extremely varied lot, with no two ever being exactly alike, as is common with seemingly everything the Orks make. Thanks to the frenzied imagination of the mech boys who build them, these machines tend to be hazardous, unreliable, and noisy. When they do work, they can inflict gruesome damage, however. Gargants are commonly equipped with at least one close combat weapon, because charging in and bashing heads is considered to be a very orky thing to do. For defense, Gargants generate power fields that is an Ork equivalent of an Imperial Titan's gravitic void shields. However, while Gargants tend to have more intense and reflective power fields than most Imperial Titans, they cannot regenerate them during a battle, as a Titan is able to do so. Orks also don't rely on the automated system that is common in most Titans of other races. The Gargants carry a large crew of both Orks and Gretchen. The crew is led by a captain who relays orders through a body of officers. A speaking tube is the preferred method of communication within a Gargant. Each greenskin officer is in charge of one section of the Gargant, be it the weapon, the magazine, the engine room, or any other chamber. Under the officer is a crew of Orks and Gretchen who carry out the orders passed down to them. Repair crews are composed of Gretchens, whose smaller build suits them for crawling through cramped spaces armed with wrenches and oil racks. Compared to Imperial Titans, Ork Gargants have weaker armor and comparatively shorter range weaponry. Nevertheless, Gargants are extremely difficult to destroy due to their dense construction. While Gargants do not suffer from potentially fatal plasma reactor meltdowns, they are particularly vulnerable to fire and magazine explosions. There is no set size for a Gargant, although the smaller ones are most often called Stompas. The Stompa is the equivalent of an Imperial Titan of the Warhound or Reaver class. In true Ork fashion, every Stompa is unique and different. They are enormous walking fortresses, clad in layer upon layer of scrap iron armor, bristling with Daka and massive motorized combat weapons. They live up to their name by stomping across the battlefield and annihilating everything in their path. Every Stompa is a unique creation, usually the product of several mechanics-fevered brains and countless hours of grot slave labor. However, as they rise up within the teetering scaffolds and approach a state of completion, certain key similarities manifest in nearly all Stompas. First and foremost, these super heavy walkers are all built as fat-bellied and belligerent Orkoid figures, effigies of the Ork gods, Gork and Mork. They stand as tall as a half-block. They are usually powered by massive internal boilers and furnaces that link to a forest of enormous smokestacks and vents which bristle from the Stompa's back. One arm is usually a gangling hydraulic affair the size of a docking crane, which ends in a monstrous chainsaw known as a Mega Choppa. This weapon can obliterate entire squads of infantry with a single swing, or carve super heavy battle tanks apart with a sustained assault. The Stompa's other arm usually comprises of an intimidating mass of artillery. The largest of these weapons is the Death Cannon, a breathtakingly huge gun that launches armor-piercing high-explosive shells with a devastating yield. So destructive is a blast from this weapon that even the Ork gunner's questionable accuracy is unlikely to spare any unfortunate caught beneath its sight. Every bit as terrifying is the Stompa's Super Gatler, a preposterously huge Gatling cannon that spits streams of high-caliber shells at an astonishing rate. When a Super Gatler cuts loose, it can rapidly annihilate swaths of infantry and light vehicles. Often the slaughter only stops when the ammunition runs dry. Supported by a battery of long-range super rockets and an array of hull-mounted heavy weaponry, these primary armaments allow a single Stompa to kick out the firepower of a small army. Generally, there are two accepted subcategories of Stompas. This is the Goth Stompa and the Mech Stompa. The Goth Stompa was popularized by the Goth clan, although it is found amongst other greenskin clans as well. It replaces the Stompa's ranged weaponry with yet another massive close combat weapon. Such is the Ork way, that each weapon is deadly in a new and often unexpected way. Some have massive claws that toss tanks aside. Others connected two arms together with a massive rolling pin type device capable of clearing paths through even the most well-armored battle lines. The Mech Stompa serves the opposite tactical role of a Goth Stompa, replacing the close combat weapon with even more ranged weapons. These weapons include massive cannons, insane rapid-fire Gatling cannons, a variable plethora of lesser guns, and occasionally a rocket that can be fired from the Stompa, piloted by a Grot. Some mechs, feeling overprotected of their creation, customize a force field to try and deflect the incoming fire. Some mech Stompas possess Imperial Titan weapons, which greatly angers Imperial defenders when they see the Orks have gotten their hands at some point on one of the Omnissiah's sacred Titans. Stompa creation is regarded as a pinnacle of mech's work, since after all, a Stompa isn't cheap. However, once a Stompa is built, many Orks will flock towards its banner, bringing with them more mechs, more teeth, and in a funny way, more Stompas. And once 2 or 3 Stompas are in a rampage, there's nothing that could stop them. Larger than both a Stompa and a Gargant are the Mega Gargants. These are the very rare, super large Gargants, on par in size with the Imperator or the Warmonger class Emperor Titan, though not nearly as powerful. It carries a large number of varied weapons, including the Mega Dropper. Unlike the other Gargants, which shuffle forward with their short mechanical legs, the Mega Gargant is actually a tracked vehicle. It is essentially a mobile Ork fortress, and its appearance is greatly feared by Ork foes. The majority of Ork Gargants are as much idols of the savage Ork gods as they are engines of destruction. Big Mech Orks receive divine visions of sorts from Gork, or possibly Morg, and set out to bring those visions to life in the artistic medium of thick armor plates, smoke-belching engines, and lots of very large guns. This activity quickly spreads amongst the other big mechs in the local Ork-settled areas, who seek to compete with a Gargant building, and soon Gargants spring up all over the place. The construction of Gargants is one of the typical signs of an impending war from an Ork-held star system. During the Battle of Rynn's World, specifically the Siege of New Rynn City, Ork Gargants saw one of the most extensive use in Imperial history. In the late 41st millennium, the Ork warlord, Snagrod, the Arch Arsonists of Caradon, united the warring greenskin factions bordering the Loki sector and launched the largest war the Imperium cluster has seen since the Great Crusade. When Wa Snagrod hit Rynn's World, it was a force unparalleled by any Ork invasion since those of the hive world of Armageddon. As the world dropships and the rocks fell through the night skies, the chapter's defense systems responded. All was well until a malfunctioning plasma missile from a Space Marine surface-to-space defense system, in a 1,000,000,000,000 malfunction, impacted the Crimson Fist Fortress Monastery. The errant missile scored an impressively accurate, if altogether unintentional, hit on the Fortress Monastery's main armory. The arsenal, the Fortress Monastery of the Crimson Fist, the mountain, and an area half a mile wide, were instantly atomized. The chapter was almost obliterated in the ensuing Holocaust. Only 16 Crimson Fist garrison in the Fortress Monastery survived, including Chapter Master Pedro Cantor and Captain Alessio Cortez. The surviving Crimson Fist stayed in New Rynn City and held out against the Ork siege. The siege of New Rynn City was to be a grinding 18 solar months, but the Crimson Fist were able to maintain their defenses until an Imperial Navy Liberation Fleet, including elements from 6 other Space Marine chapters, finally arrived 18 solar months after the invasion began. The Imperial reinforcement drove the Orks from the world. The Ork invasion of Rynn's World proved to be costly. All of the planet's major cities were destroyed, with the exception of New Rynn City. Millions of the Agri-World's people had been killed, most likely the majority of the population. It would take solar decades for the planet to recover its lost infrastructure and agricultural productivity. Many of the worlds of the Loki sector captured by Wa Snagrod, including Bad Landing, were lost, remaining in Ork hands to this day. Early in the 42nd millennium, the birth of the Great Rift engulfed Rynn's World with demonic legions spilling forth from the newly formed portal. The demons were led by Demon Prince Raxor, and the Crimson Fist were forced to battle for their homeworld survival once more, though they had little chance of success with such a depleted rank. The arrival of Primarch Gilliman's Indominus Crusade managed to break the siege and also integrate the Primaris Space Marines into the Crimson Fists. The chapter found all its losses it had suffered at the hands of the orcs made up by these additional Primaris Astartes. And those were 40 facts on the Ork Gargants. Now we're going to do something a little different towards the end of this video. I wanted to showcase something that I worked on a long time ago. You guys have always asked for showcasing videos of my army. Normally I don't like to showcase my orcs because the orcs are one of the very first armies I ever collected, so their paint scheme is pretty bad. I got them when I was probably under 10 years old, so my painting skills were really bad, and I just don't like showcasing them. But in this situation, I thought it would be a perfect time for you guys to show, or for me to show you guys a project that I did back. I was either in middle school or high school. I can't really remember the year. But I created my own Stompa out of a Mr. Potato Head. Now, this isn't my original concept. There was a website that was put up by a really awesome artist who collected the orcs. I think back in 5th edition. I think it's still up. If you look up orc, or if you search on Google Mr. Potato Head Stompa, it'll bring you over to his website. I think it's called Doc Studios or something like that. But basically, he created his own Stompa out of a Mr. Potato Head, and that is what you see in front of you. I did the same thing. I didn't want to go to GW. Well, back then, the Stompa was still a Forge World model. It wasn't a GW model. So in order for us to, or in order for me to buy that, number one, I had to, buy it off of Forge World and order it from overseas. And then on top of that, it was really expensive. So being the cheap person that I was, I created my own Stompa out of cardboard from cereal boxes, and obviously the hull is from a Mr. Potato Head. If I kind of twist it around, you'll see that it kind of has the same shape as Mr. Potato Head, and then the shoes are from the Mr. Potato Head shoes. So I created this guy based off of his concept of what a Stompa would look like if it was a Mr. Potato Head. Obviously, the head is a little different. I custom built that thing, again, out of just pieces of cardboard from cereal boxes. This is actually, one of the eyes is from a lens cap for contacts, and then the legs were also kit bashed. As you can tell, it's very dusty and it's very worn. This is a project that I did when I was very young, so it's just been sitting in my room for all those years, and it's collecting dust, and obviously it's broken multiple times, and I've tried to fix it, but now, after a while, you kind of just give up and you just let it sit there. The back of it, I had, this was where the engine part was supposed to be. And then out of the engine were smokestacks. The smokestacks obviously broke off. They were also made out of paper and cardboard, like cheap cardboard, with Elmer's glue. So after a while, they just kind of broke off, and I lost them. On the sides, you'll see that I have huge kitchen magnets. This is where the gun and the claw used to be. I took this guy over to a huge apocalypse game that I had at a friend's house, and I left the two weapons, or the two arms, at his house. I figured, I'll go get them next time we play. He ended up selling the house, and he moved away, and those arms are long gone. Who knows where they are now? So I have to rebuild them. This is a project that it took me a long time. It took me about a month. So I kind of want to maybe go back and try to touch up the Stompa with techniques and the knowledge that I have now. But we'll see, because the Stompa itself is not really a competitive model to play on the battlefield. I used it before the codex, the most recent codex, came out, and he didn't do very good. It was a huge apocalypse game of orcs versus necrons, and the Stompa kind of just stood there. I used him as you guys see him there. I didn't have any arms or anything like that. But yeah, I just wanted to take this guy out, show it to you guys, just because you guys have asked in the past for us to showcase, or for me to showcase, my orc army. I'm probably going to do that at some point. but I just thought this would be an excellent time to show you guys this really cool project that I did back when I was very, very young in the hobby. And, you know, I was pretty poor back then, so I did what I could, and I created my own Stompa for Apocalypse games. I've only used them in like 3 games, to be honest, but it was a lot of fun to build, and that's really part of the hobby that I love. It's just like kit bashing and building things out of nothing. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys listening don't really play the actual tabletop game, and you guys would appreciate the other aspects of the hobby. And one of them is this, the kit bashing and the building of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and maybe one day I'll repair this guy. And those were 40 facts on the Ork Gargants. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's just $1 a month. If you guys don't want to support us through Patreon, we are also selling some cool objective markers that you could use in your 40K game. Each one of them has its own little design, and one of them is specifically for orcs. Since I am an orc player, I wanted to make one of those special for orcs. Link in the description to the eBay page. We've only created a handful of them, so originally there was only 30. Now I think it's down to like 25. So once they're gone, we will not create any more of those types of objective markers. So if you guys do want to support the channel and also want to get some cool in return, the objective markers are an awesome way to support the channel and to get cool stuff. If you guys have any suggestions for any other topics, please comment down below. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.